Well, if you're like me, you care about your car, but you're not the biggest fan of having to get work done on your car. This is where Roda comes in. Roda is a DMV-based auto shop that makes taking care of your car so easy, it feels like magic. Roda has a team of best-in-the-business technicians who can service any make and model across any maintenance or repairs and detailing. With over 1,000 Google reviews, Best Auto Shop on Yelp, and Nextdoor awards, your neighbors are loving Roda, and you will too. Roda is tremendous. You could book any car service online in under 3 minutes. Roda offers free towing or valet. Roda literally will pick up your car and bring it to the shop in Rockville, Maryland, service the car, and return it to you. Over 80% of Roda services are done on the same day on which they're booked. Roda offers price matching, honest flat pricing, and financing. Roda offers free inspections on your car and shares everything found via video and pictures. Drivers approve only what they want to. Visit Roda.com, that's RODA.com, and use the promo code GALDI20 for 20% off any service. That's Roda.com, promo code GALDI20 for 20% off any service. Hey, if you're like me, you don't exactly have a ton of time to shop for clothes. My wife is the same way, and she has introduced me to Stitch Fix. Stitch Fix is great. You just take a quick style quiz, share your size, your vibe, your budget, and boom, you're matched with a real human stylist who handles the rest. Stitch Fix sends you a fix box with clothes that actually fit and make sense for your life, work, weekends, whatever. Stitch Fix saves you time, you look great, and you don't even have to think about it. And Stitch Fix is no risk, all style. Try Stitch Fix clothes in the comfort of your home. Keep what works, send back the rest. Free shipping and returns always, and no subscription required. Plus, get a free try-on for your first fix. Get started today at StitchFix.com/podcast to get $20 off your first order, and Stitch Fix will waive your styling fee. That's StitchFix.com/podcast. And away we go, episode 1162 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. It is the day on which the Commanders begin their practice week for their game at the Atlanta Falcons this Sunday afternoon at 1. And we now have not only the QB1 to be worried about, but also the WR1, as we wonder about the status of quarterback Jayden Daniels off him not playing in the 41-24 win over the Las Vegas Raiders at Northwest Stadium this past Sunday afternoon due to a knee injury. We on Tuesday afternoon had reports that receiver Terry McLaurin, who suffered a quadriceps injury in the win over the Raiders, may be out for this game at the Falcons. So the reporting on Tuesday afternoon was that McLaurin was seeking further opinion on his injury. You don't usually do that if you like the first opinion. Man, the run of bad injury news for the Commanders will not stop. But let's see with McLaurin. Maybe, hopefully, he does not miss a game. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, on which we are not shy about giving opinions, first opinions, second opinions, third opinions. Next segment, lots of opinions, as we'll speak with Commanders analyst Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. You can read his work at lastmanstandig.substack.com. We with Ben will cover a lot of ground off the Commanders' 2-1 start to the NFL's 2025 regular season, including whether Jayden Daniels will play in the team's game at the Falcons, the most significant absence for the Commanders in terms of players on the reserve/injured list, what to make of the usage of running backs Chris Rodriguez Jr. and Jacory Croskey-Merritt, the lack of production from Terry McLaurin, what was up with left guard Brandon Coleman being a healthy inactive for the win over the Raiders, and should we feel better or worse about the defense now as compared to how we felt at the start of the regular season? Ben Standig, next segment with intel on the Commanders. And also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats, they on Tuesday night lost at the Atlanta Braves 3-2 despite a good game for James Wood. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 2 for 3 with a solo homer, a double, and a walk. And yes, I did say homer, just his 4th homer since homering on July 9th. Also, the season of Nats starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore now is over as he pitched in his last game as a Nat. The O's, they on Tuesday night shut out the Tampa Bay Rays 6-0 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards to move to 2 games behind the Rays for 4th place in the American League East. And the O's on Tuesday morning announced that starting pitcher Trevor Rogers won the 2025 Most Valuable Oriole Award, which is voted on by members of the media. Trevor Rogers, deservedly so, the MVO. By the way, big-time change for MLB. The Joint Competition Committee, it on Tuesday afternoon voted to bring the Automated Ball Strike Challenge System, the ABS Challenge System, to the majors. This off several years of experimentation in the minor leagues, in MLB spring training, and in this year's All-Star game. The ABS Challenge System allows for each team to have 2 challenges for a 9-inning game. The ABS Challenge System is one step closer to what I want, and what I know a lot of people want: a full-time ABS system to call all balls and strikes. Remove the human errors of home plate umpires, most of whom do really good jobs, but calling balls and strikes is harder than ever, with pitchers routinely throwing in the mid to upper 90s and with teams with catchers emphasizing pitch framing like never before. I am pro ABS. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on Commanders quarterback Marcus Mariota off his great work in the win over the Raiders from Scott Salisbury on X. Writes Scott, hear me out. It's clear Mariota loves this team, DQ, the culture, etc. Given Jayden's game and the hits he takes, the Commanders should offer Marcus a sweet multi-year deal. He's invaluable, a win-win. What say you? Thank you for that, Scott. From James Cowan on X. Writes James, sign Mariota to a multi-year deal. Thank you for that, James. I would not have a problem with that, but Marcus Mariota would have to want to sign a multi-year contract extension. The Commanders this past March re-signed him as an unrestricted free agent to a reported 1-year contract. I think that may have been as much what he wanted as anything, him wanting to be able to be an unrestricted free agent in the 2026 offseason in order to potentially sign with a team to be a bridge QB1. This is only his age 32 season. He may still want to explore opportunities elsewhere, but Mariota does genuinely seem to like being the Commanders' QB2, and he is thriving in that role with how well he has played when called upon, right? 2 games last regular season, now 1 game in this regular season. He has spoken very highly of the Commanders' brotherhood culture. And regarding that, and Mariota, we, during head coach Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon, had this exchange between Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports and Quinn, off Quinn, in the win over the Raiders, having been run over by Marcus Mariota on his first and 10 3-yard shotgun run out of bounds with 4 seconds left in the second quarter. Here you go.
Going back to the kind of recurring theme of displays of brotherhood, we saw that with you being resilient AF yesterday, and Marcus was pretty emotional after the game and shared about, how much support he got, from everybody. So how do you I'm asking you, how you have started a trend and you are the leader of that culture who then came and corralled around you when you needed it in games. So how do you just keep that culture going so strong and effective as you have so far?
Yeah, well, one, Kenny, I appreciate you saying that. It's really cool. Marcus, we love him. About what he stands for, who he is. I think last night Stacey had showed me the clip of me, getting knocked on my ass and people over there to help. Even Marcus was there, making sure I was okay. Together, part of my number one job is to help create an environment where these guys can absolutely be their best. And one of the ways that you can be your best is if you have a big crew with you. That's going to help you get there and push you. And we heard a great quote on Saturday about relationships and truth, and it was, I may not get it all the way correct, but have relationships so strong, they can bear the weight of the truth. And these guys are really tight. They're really connected, Candy, because they're willing to lean in and do the hard things together. And so inside the locker room, that's where the people that they're playing for one another, for player to player. And outside, sometimes that can be hard to understand when you're not in the fight with it, but when it's them going for it together, their connection, they want to do it together. Those are things, if I can help create that environment, that they have a space that they feel good. I think Marcus is a great example. I knew he would feel unbelievable support because that's what he gives to everybody else. So it was like, man, what a cool time that we get to give that back to him and pay that back to him. So I wasn't surprised by that, but it is cool to see these guys really grow together. They definitely love one another, and you can see how hard they were playing yesterday. That's an extension of each other. So I'm definitely honored to be a part of it, and whatever small part that is, it's really cool.
Well, Marcus Mariota over 4 regular season games with the Commanders, and he has played prominently in 3 of these games. A completion percentage of 75.38, yards per pass attempt of 8.78, 5 touchdown passes versus no interceptions, 24 carries for 132 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a lost fumble. Tremendous. From Dr. Sabah on X on Marcus Mariota, writes Sabah, Al, he is from the same pedigree as our starter, 2nd overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, perfect quarterback duo. Thank you for that, Sabah. Good to hear from Sabah. The Jayden Daniels, Marcus Mariota quarterback duo. How crazy is it that Washington over the last 15 years has had not 1, not 2, but 3 quarterbacks, each of whom won a Heisman Trophy and was taken with the number 2 overall pick in an NFL draft? Robert Griffin III, Jayden Daniels, and Marcus Mariota. If you are listening to this podcast via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can rate the podcast with a star rating. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you for doing them.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bluewire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bluewire, spelled BABBEL.com/bluewire. Babbel.com/bluewire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
If you're a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility and your machinery isn't working right, Grainger knows you need to understand what's wrong as soon as possible. So when a conveyor motor falters, Grainger offers diagnostic tools like calibration kits and multimeters to help you identify and fix the problem. With Grainger, you can be confident you have everything you need to keep your facility running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
In Week 4, the NFL's 2025 regular season have the 2-1 Commanders at the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons this Sunday afternoon at 1, what is the Commanders' last game on a Sunday at 1 p.m. until December 7th. If you are a fan of our team playing on Sundays at 1 p.m., enjoy this Sunday because it is the last game before a stretch of 8 consecutive non-Sunday at 1 p.m. games. Now, they're in that mix is the game against the Miami Dolphins in Madrid on Sunday, November 16th at 9:30 a.m. So there actually is a game earlier than 1 p.m. on a Sunday, but the other 7 games are comprised of 4 night games and 3 games in the 4 p.m. hour on a Sunday. It is a pleasure to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast, Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. You could read his work at lastmanstanding.substack.com. Ben is killing it with his Substack, more than 3,000 subscribers. He also is the host of the Last Man Standing podcast. You can follow Ben on X at Ben Standig. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Well, not as good as you just reminded me about this upcoming schedule. It's going to be the end of me. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be rough. I don't know how this is going to work. Forget the team. I'm just talking about me personally. The time changes, the travel, the sleep patterns. It's going to be not good.
Aren't you, or at least weren't you, a late night guy, though? You used to cover the Wizards. A lot of late nights doing that.
No. Well, for one, I was a younger man. 2, the late night, yes, that continues. It's that the morning part is the problem. Like, there's this. I used to thrive on not getting a lot of sleep, but it's hard. It's a lot harder to do now. And then especially when you're doing it like, it's one thing if I'm in my house, but if like I'm like on the road and having to, navigate, you got to get up for, a stupid early flight or whatever. That it's just a lot. Again, I never want to act like I'm complaining about any of this, but like, that schedule is a nightmare.
Well, I do want people to know this as I grab my phone to verify this. Last Friday morning, 5:25 a.m., I texted you in response to something that you had asked me. I wrote you at that time thinking that you were sleeping and would just see what I wrote after you woke up, but you wrote me back shortly after I wrote you. So you were up in the 5 a.m. hour last Friday.
My issue is that sometimes like the sleep is not consecutive. So there's just a lot going on over here, more than people need to know. But when we talk about players not being in shape for the season, I would count myself as that, and it's really going to it's really going to hit me. It's like you said, starting in a week or so.
Well, a man known for being up in the early morning hours is Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels. So the knee injury that caused him to not play in the 41-24 win over the Las Vegas Raiders at Northwest Stadium on Sunday afternoon. If you had to guess, will he play at the Falcons this Sunday afternoon?
Only for you am I going to make a guess with no information. I'll say he doesn't. Now, I only say that because, again, we don't know a ton, but, you try to look at all the information and how close was he to really playing last week? I don't think it was that close. Like if it had been closer, I think they'd drag out the announcement that he's not playing until game time, right? Just for gamesmanship, but also give him the opportunity. The fact that he wasn't, he was limited on Friday, which Dan Quinn said was basically just some running on the grass and some throwing, didn't sound like a guy that was that close. Now that said, of course, maybe he only needed 2 or 3 more days and he would have been right as rain, and then that leads you into this. So, no idea, but I don't know. Just looking at all this, everything I'm aware of and all that, I would guess no. And I would also say that even though I know Dan Quinn said there's no correlation between how Marcus Mariota played and how Jayden's situation, to some degree, I don't know I completely buy that, in that if they had lost the game, right, you're 1-2 going to Atlanta, maybe you're like, okay, we have to like sort of push the urgency up a little bit. And the fact that Mariota looked good and they won, maybe he doesn't. So I'll guess no, but like you said, we won't know really anything for sure until later in the week.
I, on Monday's show, episode 1160, got into this topic a little bit off a message on X that I got, but Marcus Mariota has been so good as the Commanders' QB2, and they are a win-now team, and so having him as Jayden Daniels' insurance is huge. But if a win-now team with a QB1 with a more long-term injury than Jayden Daniels' injury came calling, like, say, the Cincinnati Bengals, and offered a day 2 draft pick for Mariota right now, so a second-round pick or a third-round pick in an NFL draft for Mariota right now, would you do that trade? Or would you keep Mariota as your Jayden Daniels insurance?
No, it's a fun question for sure. I think the answer is I'd have to keep him. This is where when you don't have, forget Josh Johnson. Sure, if you had to go play, maybe, but there's a reason why he's bounced around as much as he has. He's to go to the Galdi Nats world, he's like a AAA quarterback. He could do it, but not real. The fact that they don't have like that Sam Hartman, or just they don't have another young guy who'd be like, hey, maybe this guy is ready to step up, because like maybe say by like next year, maybe like if there was a younger guy, maybe Mariota wouldn't even be the backup. But no, the answer would be no. I don't think I could do it right now, especially with no other real option to fill in.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Commanders on Monday afternoon announced having play safety Will Harris on the reserve/injured list. This due to a fractured fibula that he suffered in the win over the Raiders. So the Commanders now have 4 key players on the reserve/injured list: running back Austin Eckler, edge defender Dietrich Wise Jr., safety Will Harris, and cornerback Jonathan Jones. Whose absence is most significant in your opinion?
and that's not even counting Sam Cosme, who's still hurt. This has been a fun. I kept asking everybody last week to say between the guys who we knew would be probably out, Eckler, Wise, Bates, and Brown, who would be the tougher to replace. I thought that was a really tough question to answer. I kept landing on Bates with Brown close. In terms of what you just threw out there, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would probably say Eckler just because, Wise is important. I mean, don't get me wrong, because but they have a lot of other bodies just in general on the defensive line, and running back, as we saw this week, they have three other guys that could come in and be part of a committee. But at the same point, Eckler is still the best all around option there. And I know McNichols had the 60-yard run, and the guy helps whenever he's needed. But at the same time, game in, game out, Eckler is a more proven guy. And the safety, I mean, Will Harris, they've been really big fans of what he's shown them, going back to the summer. His ability in coverage is helpful. In theory, they do have other options, in the Jeremy Reeves, Percy Butler. We'll see about Tyler Owens, but in theory, they have some other options. So I'll go Eckler, but there's a good case for a couple of them.
While we're talking Commanders at running back, is it odd to you that the team did not think enough of Chris Rodriguez Jr. to have him active for either of the team's first two games of this regular season, and yet for the win over the Raiders had him as the starting running back, and he for the game had a team-high 11 carries? There seems to be a lack of congruence with all of that.
Yeah, what I was saying all week on my podcast was that even though what you're saying makes total sense, it's how do you square these things? I think in part because when we talk about who's going to be the starting running back, that literally it's not really the pertinent question, because the starter is what does Cliff Kingsbury want to do with the game plan, those scripted plays? And clearly what he wanted to do was take a guy and bash him up the middle and let the Raiders know this was going to be, we're going to play physical today and sort of set the tone. And what I was saying all last week was that even though you don't want to lose Eckler, and you don't want Rodriguez to be up under these circumstances, I actually thought having a guy like that with his physicality would actually benefit Kingsbury, because he didn't have that with the running backs on the roster post the Brian Robinson trade. Right. I mean, when you make the Robinson trade, it's okay, well, Rodriguez can fill in some of that. Well, except then they didn't have him on the roster. So even though Bill and McNichols, can run between the tackles, that's not the same type of runner as Robinson or Rodriguez. So I actually think in some weird level, Rodriguez being active was a benefit to what Kingsbury wanted to do. And at least for 1 week, he concurred by reusing him quickly to say, hey, we are going to have this piece of this game that maybe we haven't the last couple weeks, and we're going to set the tone with our physicality.
Any surprise that running back Jacory Croskey-Merritt over the Commanders' last two games has just 12 carries off in the 21-6 win over the New York Giants at Northwest Stadium on September 7th, having 10 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown?
Not really. I mean, the way I was looking at it was again, this is a guy who, putting aside the 7th round pick and the inexperience as a rookie and all that, he didn't play last year in college, right? I mean, so you could argue he had one game. So you could say, oh, well, he's fresher, he'll be ready to go. Okay, maybe, but you always hear about the rookie wall, and guys, at some point they start to slow down. And in his case, it's sort of a unique one because of that, because he didn't play. I think you want to continue to not only develop him as a player, in terms of all the skill sets you need, but also to make sure that by the second half of the year, he's, got a lot still in the tank, because even with Eckler was here, he was the, Bill was the guy who had the higher ceiling of all these players. He may be the one that eventually you say, okay, you have to pick one of these guys to sort of be the lead, and it would be him. So I think not relying on him too much is key. I mean, also, look, I think part of the reason why Rodriguez got the most carries this week, I think, is the nature of the game, right? I mean, they were just up a lot, so that's going to lead to more running, and that's him. Whereas, if you're trailing a little bit, or if it's more of a shootout, then maybe that's where Bill gets more involved. So I'm not surprised I just think to some degree maybe they're just biding their time.
We'll see about the status of receiver Terry McLaurin as he deals with this quadriceps injury, but he, over the Commanders' first 3 games of this regular season, has just 10 receptions for just 149 yards and no touchdowns on just 17 targets. Big deal or not a big deal?
Not a big deal yet. This wasn't this performance wasn't the equivalent of the week 3 breakout he had last year at Cincinnati, as we recall. But it was sort of the same deal. The first 2 games, he was very quiet. Now, in this case, because of the fact that he missed all of camp, we're adding a little bit of extra to that, him being quiet part. But I don't think it's a big deal yet. He was obviously more active this week. Mariota got him the ball. And, look, I mean, it's ifs and buts. But, if Jayden hits some, running deep, and then week 1, he was open for a long touchdown, that changes things. Not that he didn't. 1 yard in this game prevented him from getting a touchdown. So now, like, when we keep bringing up the stats of him, it does not include a touchdown, even though, if the replay didn't show whatever it showed, maybe it would have been. So I don't think it's a big deal, but, look, I think the bigger deal is like this quad injury. I don't know. We don't know more than just the fact that he left with a quad injury. I don't suspect that it's a big deal, but considering we're all been like, hey, bracing ourselves for, is he going to have an injury, leg injury, lower body, whatever, because of missing all that time, that is maybe more interesting to me than the stats at the moment.
Much more with Ben Standig in moments. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home? Whether it is time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate, and for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You can also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. We're talking with Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. You could read his work at lastmanstandig.substack.com. You, during head coach Dan Quinn's day after the game press conference on Monday afternoon, asked him about the stunning development prior to the win over the Raiders. So the Commanders having Brandon Coleman as a healthy inactive. This off him having been the team's starting left guard for each of its first 2 games of this regular season, and off him having been the team's starting left tackle for much of last season as a rookie. Here was your exchange with Quinn.
Considering how much Brandon Coleman played last year, how surprised are you that you're in this spot with him where he's not necessarily locked in as a starter?
Well, I think one thing I do know about Brandon and Nick and these guys, like, man, they're going to put in the work, Ben. And so that's the good piece, to say, hey, he's going to dig in, go for it, and battle for it. And let's see what, the weeks ahead bring, because this guy's made of the right stuff. He wants to dig in and go for it. And so, but that's why I was kind of pretty strong about yesterday. Hey, this is where we are today, and we'll see what the next space looks like and where we're going. But that is one thing I've learned about him, over a year and a half. Like, he's going to put the work in to go. And as we're heading into our game 4, we'll see what this week looks like. Honestly, nothing's out of the question in terms of the matchups and how we want to go play. It'll sort itself out. It just it still needs some time to get there, Ben.
All right. And what happened with Brandon Coleman was part of change at both starting guard spots as Andrew Wiley started at right guard over Nick Allegretti, off Allegretti having been the Commander's starting right guard for each of the team's first 2 games of this regular season. Allegretti, though, was active. He did not play on a single offensive snap, but did play on special teams. But that Brandon Coleman wasn't just benched. He was made inactive. That was a whopper. Do you get the sense that there's more going on here than we're being told, or was this about what Dan Quinn said, competition, which, of course, is a nice way of saying that Coleman hasn't been playing well?
Yeah, I don't think there was anything like he missed a meeting or he flipped somebody off, or I don't think there's anything like that. Obviously, yeah, it was surprising, and it was surprising for me in the way of just like when people say bench Josh Connerly, I'm like, well, no. I mean, once you put him out there, Connerly, you got to let it go. He's a big part of your future. You gotta play this out. But I would have made similar argument to Coleman, maybe not as strong, seeing as how A, 3rd round pick, not a 1st, and B, they've already moved him around once. They've already said, hey, we weren't completely thrilled with what you were doing. That's why we made a big trade to get Laramie Tunsil and then drafted another tackle on top of it. But you still would think, hey, if Coleman is going to be your long-term left guard on top of the other pieces, this could really be a really good line. So I think it's interesting in that point. If I had to guess, just based on, some thoughts and some conversations and trying to read between the lines, is that maybe this is about motivation on some level, that, he was, we talked a lot about the other problems with the line over the first 2 games, but Coleman was among the league leaders in pressures and QB hurries allowed through 2 weeks. And, I obviously it's hard to know about their competitive spirit necessarily when we don't see a lot of aspects of what they do. But I do wonder if it was like a little bit of motivation, like, hey, we need you to be a little more, tough guy in there and take control of the situation. And, maybe that ultimately led to this scenario. So, yeah, it was definitely surprising. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that one.
Dan Quinn, during his post-game press conference on Sunday afternoon, indicated that the situation with the Commanders' 2 starting guard spots could be a week-to-week thing based on competition, with, of course, a wild card being when the true starting right guard, Samuel Cosmi, is activated off the reserve/physically unable to perform list. But do you buy this idea that who the team's starting guards are could be a week-to-week thing?
Well, you go back to last year, right, and when they wouldn't name Jayden the starter, even though after a while it was like, come on. And it was all in the name of competition and look, hey, we can now tell different people down the line, hey, we just didn't hand Jayden Daniels the deal, and look who he is, so you got to earn this. And, I think to some degree almost any opportunity to remind us, but also to remind the players that there is constant competition, that you're not, just because you're starting today or you're backup today does not mean that's where you're sitting at. And I think this was an opportunity for Quinn to some degree to say that, because you're right, logically, just say for this week, I don't understand how you would switch away from Chris Paul, who didn't allow anything. There's a lot of zeros next to Chris Paul's name if you look at the stat sheet, which is obviously what you want. And, I think Andrew Wiley as well gave them a better play at right guard than they had gotten from Allegretti. So I don't know how you would go backwards to any of it, but obviously with Coleman, from a ceiling standpoint, he should be starting if we're basing things on that. So maybe if he has a good week of practice and shows what they were looking for, maybe there's something to that, but I'd be surprised if they made a change right now.
A lot to take in with the Commanders' defense so far. Netting it out, do you feel better or worse about the defense now as compared to how you felt at the start of the regular season?
I kind of don't feel any different, because I don't know what to make of this. You may have looked this up because you're an analytical kind of guy. I don't know what, if you ranked all the offensive lines right now, it's conceivable the Giants and the Raiders are the 2 worst, right? So, obviously Washington has looked good against them, but again, I don't know what to make of that. And in Green Bay, they didn't look particularly sharp. They weren't a major factor in that game. So are they beating up on the poor, or are they legitimately showing a lot? Now, my big takeaway from this last game was that this is the type of performance that a contender delivers. They're coming off a bad loss, bunch of injuries. They're at home. You could easily say overlook the Raiders or just come in feeling salty about, feeling Eeyore-ish about your own situation. And instead they came out and were like, no. We are the better team. We're gonna take control of this game quickly, and we are going to put them away. And that is a really impressive trait, I think, for a good team. So I think that's good. But like I said, the range of opponents they have played so far is so wide that it's still for me a little hard to completely gauge where they are at. And we may not, this week against Atlanta. We'll see. Obviously, Atlanta had to come off a terrible game, but early in the year, they looked pretty good from a pass rush perspective, and obviously they have playmakers on offense. The week 5 against the Chargers, maybe that's the next test where we're like, okay, this looks to be a real good team on both sides of the ball, dynamic quarterback, good defense. Where are they at now? But that's my rub at the moment. Is like I don't know how the Giants and Raiders lines were just so bad. I don't really know how to make sense of it. I'm rambling, but they played well. I mean, kudos to Kinlaw and Payne, and Dorrance Armstrong's off to a great start. So they're playing well. How well is where I'm at.
Yeah, so much of defense in today's NFL is who the defense is facing in terms of quarterbacks and what the defense is facing in terms of overall offenses. We have seen this Commanders defense be really good against bad offenses, but be terrible against a good offense in that of the Green Bay Packers. If Matt Gay in the win over the Raiders had missed that 56-yard field goal attempt on the final snap of the first half, would he still be the Commanders' kicker right now? He in the first quarter had the kickoff out of bounds penalty and the missed 37-yard field goal attempt. He did make the 46-yard field goal with 9:56 left in the second quarter, but had he missed that 56-yard field goal attempt and fallen to 2 for 6 on field goals in this regular season, would that have been it for him with the Commanders? Did that save his job, at least for now?
I think that there would be some other kicker would have been in town this week. Maybe he's still the kicker, but I think at a minimum they would have had to have strongly think about it. And I think you can tell that's accurate because when Dan Quinn was asked about it after the game, he's like, hey, we have a lot of faith in Matt, but that faith has to be rewarded. You can't just say it. You actually have to make the kicks. Fortunately for Matt Gay, he did. And maybe that's a, spark to something. And look, the 56-yarder, that's a long kick. I mean, in today's NFL, it almost seems like a chip shot the way guys are making it from 60 plus constantly. But that's a long one. It's a big one, and he's got to be more consistent. So I think if he had not, if he had continued the trend after missing the first one, I think we'd be looking at a tryout this week at a minimum.
3 of the Commanders' next 4 games are road games. 2 of the team's first 3 games this regular season have been home games. Each was a sellout. How have the crowds at Northwest Stadium been for those games?
Yeah, they've seemed pretty good. It's one thing that stinks about the press box is that we're behind really thick glass. So whenever there's a loud roar, it gets very muted for us. So the crowd is not the factor for us that maybe it is as much inside. But that said, I think people are definitely enthusiastic. I always look at it anecdotally. I've said this before, but I had friends and family who would tell me prior to this last couple of years, hey, I just want you to know I don't read your stuff because I can't deal with this team anymore. I'm like, cool. And now the same people are texting me all the time, hey, what's going on with Jayden or Chris Rodriguez or whatever. So I think there's definitely a lot more engagement, for all the obvious reasons, Jayden Daniels being top of the list and just removing the stench of the previous deal. So it does seem like people are pretty enthused, and why wouldn't you be after the year they had last? If you're still holding out after last year, I mean, they may never win another Super Bowl, who knows? But if you're still holding out, I don't know what to tell you. The last year was pretty magical. If you weren't moved by that, you may just be dead inside.
I have called last season the Renaissance season. Hopefully your family is reading your Substack. By the way, I like the layout of your Substack. When you go to Ben's Substack, you immediately see all kinds of content. You get smacked in the face with all of this content, and that to me is a good thing. It is immediately conveyed that, hey, there's a lot to choose from here.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of different. Look, Substack makes it very easy to do this. If I had to set up a site on my own, I'd be figuring out how to just do a podcast because I can't do anything. But they make it easy. That was just the format I picked, and yeah, I kind of like it. It's different. Obviously, there's the app on the app as well, and then there's the desktop. I like the desktop. The app is fine, but it's like a little more generic. But I agree with you. I like the layout of the hard part is like, it'll automatically, whatever I publish will go to the top, but like sometimes I want a certain article or two to stay, like, so I'll pin it, but then I'll forget that I pin it, and then like 4 days later you're like, hey, why are you still saying that Jayden's questionable? Like, oh crap, let me fix that stuff. Other than that, yeah, I agree.
But each piece of content has a date, so you can tell what's current and what's not.
Look, a lot of things you can do, but like, a lot of people don't show me. I don't want to think too hard about this. Well, but yes, yeah, no, I agree. I like the look of the page. Yeah, no, and I agree. It's that's one of the things that's been tricky, like the constant balance of feeling like I need to write something constantly, but simultaneously wanting to write things maybe a little deeper. I feel like I need to do a little bit more of that. But how do you do that? At least that, when you're at another site with more people or more stuff happening, you can maybe take a quote unquote day or two off to focus on bigger stuff. Whereas here, if I don't write, then nothing happens,
Well, continued success. Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack. You could read his work at lastmanstandig.substack.com. Ben, thanks, and we'll talk soon.
Al, always appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right. Always good to talk to Ben. The NACE Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. It will fight for you and win for you. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the NACE Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace, he is a big Commanders fan. He is a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the NACE Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the NACE Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. At last, it has happened again. The Nationals' James Wood homering. His lack of home runs over the last 2+ months has been baffling, but he on Tuesday night homered, although the homer came in a loss for the Nats, a 3-2 loss at the Atlanta Braves in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 64-94, worst record in the National League East, second worst record in the National League, third worst record in the majors. So the Nats in this month of September now are 11-11. 6 of the 11 losses have come against the Braves, who now have won 10 consecutive games. The Nats on Tuesday night scored just 2 runs in total, just 6 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 4 singles. The Nats did work 5 walks and did go 2 for 5 with runners in scoring position, and the homer and the double were by James Wood. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 2 for 3 with a solo homer, a double, and a walk. A Wood in a Nats 1-run 8th had a leadoff full count homer to right center field to cut the Nats deficit to 3-2. The homer went a projected 416 feet per StatCast and was just his 4th home run since homering on July 9th. James Wood for this regular season has a team-best 28 home runs and a team-best 38 doubles, but that he may not even get to 30 home runs is remarkable, given the pace that he was on. The Nats in this season have just 4 games left. Dalen Lyle, he returned from a 1-game absence caused by a left knee contusion. He is the Nats starting DH and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with a single. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 1 for 4 with an RBI single. We had a significant occurrence at first base for the Nats. Luis Garcia Jr., he played first base for the first time in his MLB regular season career. He has been working at first base. He has had an atrocious season defensively as a second baseman. Garcia, as a second baseman for this regular season, as of games through Monday, was dead last among all qualified players in MLB in defensive run save per Sports Info Solutions at -16. And so the Nats on Tuesday night actually played him at first base. He did well defensively at first base, no big problems. He has the Nats starting first baseman and number 5 batter went 0 for 4. The problem with Luis Garcia at first base is this. First base traditionally is an offensive position, and Garcia has not shown himself to be a good enough hitter to be a first baseman. His OPS for this regular season is just .689. And we had yet another base running blunder for the Nats. The Nats in the top of the 4th had runners on first and third with 2 outs. Jacob Young was on first base. He took off for second base. The Braves threw down. Young tried to get in a rundown, but Brady House, who was on third base, turned and looked at Nats third base coach Ricky Gutierrez and then broke for home plate too late. Young got thrown out on the attempted steal for the 3rd out, and House did not score. The Nats, with Miguel Cairo as interim manager, have tried this play so many times, and it seemingly never works. The Nats starting pitcher in this 3-2 loss at the Braves on Tuesday night was Brad Lord, and he was good. He allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were 2 home runs and 2 singles. He had 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw a lot of strikes, 96 pitches, 63 strikes, just 33 balls. So Lord gave up 2 lengthy solo homers, a 1-out solo homer by Michael Harris II to right center field in the bottom of the 5th to tie the game at 1, and a 2-out first pitch opposite field solo homer by Ronald Acuna Jr. to right center field in the bottom of the 6th for a 2-1 Braves lead. The projected distances of the homers per StatCast were 444 and 433 feet, respectively. But Lord, beyond the homers, did well. Brad Lord now for this regular season as a rookie over 2 stints in the rotation and 2 stints in the bullpen. 47 games, including 18 starts. ERA of 4.12, whip of 1.28. He is number 2 among all Nats pitchers in wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, 1.6 as of games through Monday. Starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore is number 1, 3.0 as of games through Monday. More on Gore in moments. And the Nats relief pitching in this 3-2 loss at the Braves on Tuesday night. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 innings. Connor Pilkington allowed 1 run in a third of an inning. He in the bottom of the 7th faced 3 batters, but got just 1 out. He to the first batter he faced gave up a leadoff homer by Michael Harris II to right center field on a 1-2 pitch for a 3-1 Braves lead. The homer went a projected 424 feet per StatCast. Orlando Revolta tossed 2/3 of a scoreless and hitless inning. He in the bottom of the 7th faced 3 batters and got 2 outs. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having recalled Revolta from AAA Rochester, and Julian Fernandez tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having recalled Fernandez from AAA Rochester. As for why Revolta and Fernandez were recalled from AAA Rochester, well, the seasons of 2 Nats pitchers now are over. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having placed starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore on the 15-day injured list due to a right ankle impingement ending his season, and the Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having placed reliever Mason Thompson on the 15-day injured list retroactive to September 20th due to right biceps tendonitis ending his season. The big item here is Gore, who was on the 15-day injured list August 30th, retroactive to August 27th to September 11th. This due to left shoulder inflammation. Gore was great in the pre-All-Star break portion of the season. He made the National League All-Star team for this season, but he struggled in the post-All-Star break portion of the season, and his final stats for this regular season really aren't so great. 30 starts, ERA of 4.17, whip of 1.35, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.43, but 17.65 pitches per inning, second highest among all qualified pitchers in the majors. This was his age 26 season. He's under team control through the 2027 season, so just 2 more seasons, and it is going to be so interesting to see what whoever is running Nats baseball operations beyond this season does with MacKenzie Gore. Does the person retain Gore as a foundational piece, or does the person trade Gore as a means of supercharging this Nats rebuild that isn't working? Game 3 for the Nats at the Braves Wednesday afternoon at 12:15. Andrew Alvarez will be the Nats starting pitcher.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bluewire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/bluewire, spelled BABBEL.com/bluewire. Babbel.com/bluewire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It is not a given that the Orioles in MLB's 2025 regular season are going to finish last in the American League East. They entered Tuesday 3 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays for 4th place in the 5-team AL East. And the O's on Tuesday night began a 3-game series against the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. And the O's won that game, a 6-0 win over the Rays in a game for which the start was delayed for 1 hour and 11 minutes due to rain. But the O's, Joe Angel, were back in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's now are 74-83, 2 games behind the Rays, who are 76-81. The race for 4th in the AL East, not exactly a pennant race, but it is something. More on the Orioles' win over the Rays in moments, but the O's on Tuesday morning announced that starting pitcher Trevor Rogers won the 2025 Lewis M. Hatter Most Valuable Oriole Award, which is voted on by members of the media. Trevor Rogers, the MVO. Rogers, believe it or not, is the first pitcher to be named Most Valuable Oriole since starting pitcher Rodrigo Lopez in 2002. Yes, 2002, 23 years ago. Boy, does that say a lot about the Orioles' pitching struggles over the years. But what a season for Trevor Rogers. The O's on July 30th, 2024 announced having traded outfielder Kyle Stowers and second baseman/outfielder Connor Norby to the Miami Marlins for Rogers in a trade that had looked so bad with how well Stowers is doing. Rogers was so bad for the O's in the 2024 regular season that they on August 22nd, 2024, less than a month after acquiring him, announced having optioned him to AAA Norfolk, and then Rogers was on the 15-day injured list from this past March 27th, retroactive to March 24th to May 11th, this due to a right knee subluxation that he suffered during a workout this past January. But Rogers at the major league level in this regular season has been sensational, shockingly so. 17 starts, ERA of 1.35, whip of 0.88. 8-7. As for the Orioles' 6-0 win over the Rays on Tuesday night, so the O's off totaling just 6 runs in losing 3 out of 4 games to the New York Yankees at Oriole Park at Camden Yards this past Thursday through Sunday, scored 6 runs on Tuesday night. The O's scored 6 runs on just 7 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 5 singles. The O's worked 3 walks, but went just 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Adley Rutschman, he is the Orioles starting catcher and number 6 batter, went 0 for 4, but he is back. The O's on Monday afternoon announced having returned Rutschman from his minor league rehab assignment and having reinstated him from the 10-day injured list, which he had been on since August 21st, retroactive to August 18th. This due to a right oblique strain. Rutschman was on the 10-day injured list from June 21st, retroactive to June 20th to July 28th, due to a left oblique strain. Colton Cowser, he is the Orioles starting center fielder and number 8 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer and a single. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 1 for 2 with an RBI single, a walk, an RBI sac fly, and a stolen base. Outstanding pitching by the O's in this 6-0 win over the Rays on Tuesday night. Dean Kramer was the Orioles starting pitcher. He was great. He tossed 6 1/3 scoreless innings with 4 strikeouts versus no walks. He gave up just 1 hit, which was a single. He threw 97 pitches, 62 strikes versus 35 balls. This has been a really up and down season for Dean Kramer. Some terrific outings, some hideous outings. He, for this regular season, now has the following stats: 30 games, including 29 starts, ERA of 4.23, WHIP of 1.22, team high 170 and a third innings pitched, and we do believe that this was his final game of the season. Good relief pitching by the O's in this 6-0 win over the Rays on Tuesday night. 3 Orioles relievers combined for 2 2/3 scoreless innings. Jose Castillo tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. Colin Selby tossed a perfect top of the 8th. The O's on Tuesday afternoon announced having returned Selby from his minor league rehab assignment and having reinstated him from the 15-day injured list. He had been on that since July 29th due to a left hamstring strain, and Yoramil Geraldo tossed a scoreless and hitless top of the 9th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Also, the O's on Tuesday afternoon announced having reinstated reliever Chase McDermott from the bereavement/family medical emergency list and having put him on the 15-day injured list due to back discomfort, so his season is done. Game 2 for the O's against the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, Wednesday evening at 6:35. Tyler Wells will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Thursday's show, episode 1163, will provide you with more on the Commanders as they on Wednesday begin their practice week for their game at the Atlanta Falcons this Sunday afternoon at 1. Also on Thursday's show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are at the Atlanta Braves Wednesday afternoon at 12:15 in Game 3 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Tampa Bay Rays Wednesday evening at 6:35 in Game 2 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.
We heard a great quote on Saturday about relationships and truth, and it was, I may not get it all the way correct, but have relationships so strong, they can bear the weight of the truth.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.